Good morning. It's Monday morning, and today we're on Acts 10, 34 to 43. So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. As for the word that he sent to Israel, preaching good news of peace through Jesus Christ, he is Lord of all. You yourselves know what happened throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee after the baptism that John proclaimed, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. He went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. And we are witnesses of all that he did, both in the country of the Jews and in Jerusalem. They put him to death by hanging him on a tree, but God raised him on the third day and made him appear not to all the people, but to us who had been chosen by God as witnesses, who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. And he commanded us to preach to the people and testify that he is the one appointed by God to be judge of the living and the dead. To him all the prophets bear witness that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name." So finally, Peter tells Cornelius and his friends what the story is. And he says, God shows no partiality. Now, this is important, I think, and it's important for us. The Jews were very, very nationalistic sort of people. Maybe that's not the right word, but you were either a Jew or you were one of the dogs, someone else, other, okay? And so it was very important to be in the right group. And so to be in the Jews, to be a Jew was important. To be other was to be one of the dogs, a Gentile dogs, they called them. So there are very strong definitions of who was in and who was out, who was acceptable and who was not acceptable. Well, we don't have the same cultural context today. We're not Jews looking at Gentiles as dogs, but we still are looking at other people as other, less acceptable. You know, they're not people like us. Socioeconomically, you know, if you hang around sort of, I'm going to use some stereotypes here. It's not really going to be country clubber type people a lot. You're going to find that among some of them, there's a certain attitude toward others. You know, well, they're not really like us. If you hang around, if you're in a group that looks at others by education level, well, they're not really that, you know, they haven't been to college. They're not that smart. Sure they are. Or if you look at people, well, their grandparents moved here from, you know, Pakistan, so they're a little weird. They speak a different language at home. They you know, terrorists. We have all these divisions. We have all these things among us that tear us apart. And so America, you know, the great melting pot's no longer the great melting pot. We're just a bunch of people stirred into this stew together, bumping up against each other all the time. And so you've got all these groups that essentially are lining up to fight each other, you know, and you wonder, how are all these people who claim to be loyal to God at the same time hating all these other people? There's something wrong there. There's some disconnect, and there really, really is. God doesn't show partiality about economics or education or political views or ethnic roots or race or any of that. That's just not who God is, and that's not what God is doing. So I think that's one thing we can take from this speech of Peter's, and we really need to look at that because, for most of us, we're more privileged than we know, and that's an issue for us. Not that it's a problem for us, but it's an issue for us, and we have to learn how to deal with it and overcome that as we relate to the other people. Well, think about that today. I know that's not the most cheerful thing in the world, but that's where we are in Acts, and tomorrow we keep going. So see you then. Have a great day.